Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're looking at something really interesting. It's a YouTube transcript from IELTS Advantage. And the title is 69 Advanced Words, C1 plus C2, to get a band 9.
Right. Quite a list.
It is. But look, this isn't just about, test prep. Our real aim here is to dig into these sophisticated words.
Understand what makes them tick.
Exactly. Understand their power in communication, really move beyond just memorizing definitions.
Yeah, knowing how they work, how they elevate things.
Right, especially in writing. But really, anytime you want to express yourself with more precision, more impact. So if that sounds like you, you're in the right place.
Absolutely. And what's really useful, I think, is that these advanced words, they aren't just for exams. Understanding the subtleties, the nuances, it really unlocks a better way to talk about complex ideas, with more finesse.
Layers of meaning.
Exactly. Layers that maybe simpler words just miss.
Okay, let's dive in. First word, viable. The transcript says able to work or succeed. So feasible, workable, possible. And you see it in phrases like viable option, viable alternative. The student example was, a viable solution is to heavily punish lawbreakers.
Okay.
When you hear viable, what's the sort of subtle aspect that stands out?
Well, what's interesting about viable is its connection to practicality, real-world practicality.
Right.
It's not just like, could this happen in theory? It's more, does it actually have the capacity to work, to function well?
To get the job done.
Yes. Notice it often goes with nouns like solution or option. It suggests someone's actually assessed it.
Ah, okay. So it's not just possible, it's likely to succeed in practice.
Precisely. That distinction is really key, especially in persuasive writing and speaking.
Makes sense. Okay, next up, schooling.
Schooling.
Defined as education at school. Synonyms: education, learning, training. And you get pairings like primary schooling, secondary schooling. The student example mentioned the difficulty for teachers providing proper schooling in Vietnam because of large class sizes. Seems pretty straightforward.
It does, but there's a slight shade of meaning. While it overlaps with education, schooling points specifically to the formal education you get in schools.
The system, the institution.
Exactly. It's more precise when you're talking about those structured environments.
So the class size example fits perfectly because it's a challenge within that formal system.
Right, making schooling a better fit there than just the broader word education.
Got it. Okay, word 3 is renowned.
Renowned. Famous or respected?
Synonyms: well-known, famous, celebrated. And you often see it with expert or renowned for, something like a renowned athlete. The example sentence was, accepted to work under this renowned company. It feels like it has more weight than just famous.
Oh, definitely. Renowned elevates the idea. It implies widespread recognition, yes, but recognition for excellence.
Earned respect.
Exactly. A history of achievements that people admire, built up over time. Someone famous might be known for anything, really.
But renowned suggests high standing based on merit.
Yes. Think of it as a deeper, more established kind of fame.
Okay. Moving on to prime, meaning best or most important.
Like top or main?
Yeah. Collocations include prime example, prime advantage, prime reason. A student wrote, the prime disadvantage is that these companies use the natural resources. It really focuses your attention, doesn't it?
It does. Prime signals to your listener or reader, pay attention, this is the most significant bit I'm about to mention.
And it works for good things and bad things.
Right. Advantages, disadvantages, reasons, examples. It's versatile. That makes it a really powerful tool for structuring an argument.
Highlighting your key points.
Exactly. It's not just an example, it's the prime example, the best one.
Okay. The next word is prone, meaning likely to do or experience something.
Inclined, susceptible.
Right. You see prone to errors, but the example is interesting. People that have a diet based on plants and seeds are more prone to have a healthier life. So it's about a predisposition.
Yes. Prone points to a higher chance of something happening. Could be good, could be bad.
Like in the examples.
Exactly. It suggests an inherent tendency or susceptibility. So it's useful when you're discussing things that increase the likelihood of certain outcomes or conditions.
Got it. Word number 6, officials.
Officials. People in authority or government.
Like authorities, leaders, administrators. You often hear government officials, public officials. The student example mentioned newspapers publishing information about them. It's a pretty specific group.
It is, and it's a really crucial term. when you're discussing governance, policy, the actions of public bodies.
Right.
Officials is the precise way to refer to people holding those positions of authority. If you're analyzing decisions or policies, it's the right word for formal language.
Okay. Next, we have output.
Output, the amount produced.
Synonyms like production, yield, collocations, industrial output, total output. The example mentioned uniforms helping increase company output, ties into results, productivity.
Precisely. Output is fundamental when you're talking economics, manufacturing, efficiency. It quantifies the result.
What you get out.
Exactly. Whether it's a factory's production, a farm's yield, or a company's overall performance, output gives you a clear metric.
Good for discussing economic factors.
Okay.
Word 8 is intellect.
Intellect, ability to think and understand.
Intelligence is the synonym given. You see, Hishara child's intellect.
Right.
The example talks about educational TV helping a child's intellect. It feels like more than just knowing facts, though.
Oh, absolutely. Intellect refers to those higher cognitive abilities, reasoning, learning, understanding abstract ideas, making judgments.
The machinery of the mind.
Sort of, yes. It's about actively processing information, developing cognitive power. It goes beyond just retaining knowledge, using intellect as that depth when you're discussing mental capabilities.
Right. Okay, incentives is next, meaning things that encourage action.
Motivation, reward, encouragement.
Yeah. We often see provide incentives or offer incentives. The example was about giving incentives to encourage voting. Gets to the heart of what makes people act.
It really does. Incentives are the drivers behind so many actions and decisions. They highlight those external factors that influence our choices. Understanding how they work is critical in economics, psychology, policymaking, you name it.
Like the voting example shows, how to encourage certain behaviors.
Exactly.
Okay, number 10 is irrespective, meaning without considering.
Regardless, despite.
And the main collocation is irrespective of. A student wrote about life fulfillment irrespective of more responsibilities. It lets you make a point that holds true regardless of other factors.
Precisely. Irrespective is a powerful way to show a kind, comprehensive, unbiased view.
How so?
Well, it signals that a specific factor doesn't actually change the outcome or the truth of your statement. By using irrespective of, you show you're aware of different circumstances.
But your main point still stands.
Right. It adds a sense of objectivity, of thoroughness to your argument.
Okay, number 11 is fundamental, meaning important.
Essential.
Primary. Lots of collocations. Fundamental principle, fundamental change, fundamental right, fundamental reason. The example is about the fundamental right to privacy. It really underlines the core importance.
Absolutely. Fundamental means something forms the very basis or foundation of something else.
The bedrock.
Yes.
Yeah.
A principle or right that's so central, other things depend on it. When you use fundamental, you're really highlighting that indispensable foundational nature of your point.
Got it. Next up, disclose, meaning to make something known.
Reveal, show, tell.
Main collocation, to disclose information. The example linked publishing private details to disclosing political corruption. It feels like uncovering something hidden.
It does. Disclose implies bringing something private or unknown into the open. It often carries a sense of revealing information that might be sensitive or significant or maybe even deliberately hidden.
Like the corruption example.
Exactly. Disclose highlights making that wrongdoing public, which is vital for accountability.
Right. Word 13, detrimental.
Detrimental, causing harm or damage.
Synonyms, harmful, damaging, bad. The main collocation is detrimental effect, often on health or the environment. The example, smoking has a detrimental effect on health. It's a strong word for negative outcomes.
It is. Detrimental is a potent adjective. It clearly signals a significant negative impact or harmful result.
More than just bad.
Yes, it emphasizes the damaging nature, the adverse consequences, whether it's health, the environment, or whatever you're discussing.
Okay. Moving on, we have adolescence.
Adolescents, young people, teenagers, usually 13, 19.
The example mentions adolescence being free of responsibilities. The transcript rightly warns against using it just to mean children. Why is that distinction important?
Ah, that's crucial. Adolescence isn't just any young person. It's that specific developmental stage.
Between childhood and adulthood.
Right. Marked by unique physical, emotional, social changes. Using it just for children is inaccurate. It misses the specific nuance you need when talking about issues relevant to teenagers.
Makes sense. 15th word. Accountable.
Accountable. Responsible for actions.
Synonyms: responsible, answerable, liable. Collocations: accountable to, accountable for. The example was about politicians being held accountable for wrongdoings. It's about having to justify your actions.
Exactly. Accountable really stresses that obligation to answer for what you've done and to face the consequences if it's judged wrong.
A core principle.
Yes, fundamental in ethics, in governance. It highlights the responsibility that comes with authority or specific roles. The politician example really nails why it's crucial for public trust.
Okay. Next, addressed, meaning to fix an issue or problem.
Tackled, deal with, handled, fixed.
Common pairings: address a problem, address the issue. The example mentioned bullying being addressed through awareness and new laws. Suggests a proactive approach.
It does. Addressed signifies taking deliberate steps to deal with or resolve something. An active engagement with the challenge.
Does it always mean fully fixed?
Not necessarily. It can suggest a full resolution, like new laws might aim for, but it can also just mean the initial steps taken to manage or mitigate it, like raising awareness.
So it's quite versatile for talking about problem solving.
Yes, exactly.
Word 17, affluence.
Affluence, having a lot of money.
Wealthy, rich, prosperous. Collocations, an affluent society, an affluent country. A student wrote about residents having an opportunity to become affluent, speaks to a high level of financial well-being.
Yes. Affluence denotes significant wealth, material comfort, often used in economic discussions about prosperity, resource availability.
And the example highlights upward mobility.
Right. The potential to achieve that financial success.
Okay, allocate is next, meaning to distribute resources or duties.
Assign, distribute, allot.
Main collocation: to allocate resources. The example was about investment banks deciding to allocate a percentage of top jobs to women. Implies a deliberate distribution.
Precisely. Allocate is about intentionally assigning and distributing resources, money, people, materials for a specific purpose.
There's a decision behind it.
Yes, a decision process about how best to divide things up to get the results you want, like the diversity example shows.
Got it. Number 19, awareness.
Awareness. Knowledge about something.
Knowledge, understanding, common pairings. To raise awareness, awareness campaigns. The example suggested awareness campaigns as a solution, emphasizes being informed.
Awareness is often the absolute first step in tackling social issues.
You can't fix what you don't know about.
Exactly. It underlines how critical public knowledge and understanding are for recognizing problems and motivating change. Awareness campaigns are a common, often necessary strategy.
Okay. Bullying is next.
Bullying. Repeated aggressive behavior intended to hurt.
Synonyms: harassment, intimidation, abuse. Collocations: school bullying, cyberbullying.
Yeah.
The example linked increased cyberbullying to hate crimes. It's a really prominent issue, unfortunately.
It is. Bullying describes that specific pattern: harmful, aggressive, repeated, intended to cause distress.
And now online, too.
Right. Cyberbullying shows how it's adapted. And linking it to serious things like hate crimes really underscores how severe it is.
Definitely. Okay, word 21, burden.
Burden. A heavy load or responsibility.
Load, responsibility, common pairings. Heavy burden, financial burden. The example was about not coping with the financial burden of buying clothes, conveys being weighed down.
Yes, burden really effectively communicates that sense of weight, difficulty. Could be literal, could be figurative, like a responsibility or a financial obligation.
Financial burden seems very common.
It is, especially when discussing economic challenges for individuals or communities.
Capabilities is next, meaning ability to do something.
Abilities, skills, talents.
Collocations, their capabilities. It's capabilities. The example talked about athletes using drugs to exceed their physical capabilities. Touches on human limits.
Right. Capabilities refers to that inherent potential or capacity to do things. The range of skills, talents, abilities someone or something has.
And the example raises questions about those natural limits.
And the ethics of trying to push past them artificially.
Okay. Word 23. Commonly.
Commonly. Frequently or usually?
Often, usually, regularly. Collocation. Commonly used. The example says something can be commonly seen in schools. Straightforward indicator of how often.
Yes, commonly is just a direct, effective way to signal frequency or typicality. Using adverbs like this adds precision, tells you how often something happens.
Simple but useful. Okay, consumption.
Consumption. The act of using something.
Use, usage, collocations, energy consumption, human consumption. The example mentioned animals sold for human consumption. Central term for resources and needs.
Absolutely. Consumption is key when discussing how resources are used: energy, food, goods. Very relevant for sustainability, human impact on the environment.
The food example is clear. Okay, word 25 is competence.
Competence. Ability to do something well.
Ability, skill, proficiency, collocations, professional competence, competence in something.
Right.
The example suggested companies would reach a higher competence level by allocating jobs to women. It's more than just being able to do it.
Exactly. Competence implies a level of skill, proficiency that lets someone perform effectively to a good standard, having the necessary abilities to get the desired result.
And the example links diversity to organizational competence. Interesting.
Yes, it does.
Corruption is next. Dishonest or illegal behavior by those in power.
Dishonesty, fraud, bribery.
Main collocation, political corruption. The example was about revealing politicians' corruption. Serious issue, erodes trust.
Hugely serious. Corruption undermines institutions, has widespread negative effects. It's specifically about abusing entrusted power for private gain.
And the example highlights transparency.
Yes, and accountability. Exposing and fighting corruption, especially in politics.
Okay, we have a pair next. Downsides and drawbacks.
Right. Both meaning negative aspects.
Disadvantages, negatives, collocations, potential downsides, major drawbacks. A student mentioned the major drawback of a method being its high cost, essential for balance.
Yes, having both words gives you a bit of nuance, maybe avoids repetition. They are very similar, though.
The collocations help emphasize the degree of negativity.
Potential, major, etc.
Okay, deficiency is next, a lack of something.
A lack, a shortage, an insufficiency.
Collocations. A vitamin deficiency, deficiency in, the example, people on vegetarian diets might have a protein deficiency, often relates to health.
Yes, deficiency points specifically to an inadequate amount of something needed, commonly used for health and nutrition, as you said.
But could apply elsewhere too.
Sure, deficiency in resources, a deficiency in skills. Anywhere a necessary element is lacking.
Got it. Embrace is next, to accept with enthusiasm.
Accept, welcome, adopt.
Main collocation, to embrace change. The example, gaining knowledge and embracing other cultures suggests a positive, open attitude.
It does. Embrace conveys this wholehearted acceptance, positive engagement, often with something new or different.
More than just tolerating it.
Oh, yes. It implies a willingness to adopt it, integrate it. Like the example of embracing cultures, it's beautiful.
It is. Okay. Enhance, meaning to improve something.
Improve, boost, increase.
Common pairing, to enhance performance. The example, drama lessons helping to enhance confidence, making something better or stronger.
Exactly. Enhance is a great verb for describing improving quality, value, effectiveness. Suggests an addition or change leads to a positive outcome.
Like confidence in the example. Emissions is next. Gases or substances sent into the air.
Output, essentially.
Key phrases, carbon emissions, reduce emissions, the example, vegetarian diets helping reduce carbon emissions. Critical environmental term.
Absolutely critical. Emissions is central for environment, policy, pollution, climate change.
Especially carbon emissions.
Right, because of their impact. And reduce emissions is the goal. The diet example shows how broadly relevant the term is.
It does. Okay, establishments.
Establishments, a business or organization.
Institutions, organizations, firms. Educational establishments was highlighted, like universities, a more formal term.
Yes, establishments is more formal, more encompassing for various organizations. Educational establishments is a sophisticated alternative to just schools or universities. Adds formality.
Right. Expenditure is next. Money spent on something.
Spending, costs, outlay.
Often linked with government or public expenditure. The student example mentioned increased expenditure on uniforms, the formal word for spending.
It is. Expenditure refers to spending money, often in a more formal or official context. Governments, organizations, businesses.
Tracking costs.
Exactly. Analyzing the costs they incur.
Okay. Exceed, meaning to go beyond a limit or standard.
Surpass, go beyond, outdo.
Common pairing, exceed expectations. The example again was athletes using substances to exceed physical capabilities, pushing past boundaries.
Yes, exceed clearly communicates going beyond a set limit, standard, or expectation, surpassing a threshold.
And the athlete example highlights wanting to push limits.
Sometimes controversially.
Harassment is next, aggressive pressure or intimidation.
Bullying, intimidation, abuse.
Collocations, workplace harassment, Sexual harassment. The example was about sexual harassment allegations. Serious social and professional issue.
Very serious. Harassment describes that pattern of unwelcome, offensive behavior, creates a hostile, intimidating environment.
And the examples show specific, sadly common forms.
Yes, with significant negative impact.
Okay. Hence, meaning for this reason.
Therefore, thus, so.
Collocation. Hence the need for, the example connected more sports facilities to more people doing sports. Hence staying healthy. Formal way to show consequence.
It is. Hence is formal, concise, clearly shows cause and effect. This happened. Hence that follows.
Signals a logical conclusion.
Right. Contributes to coherence, but you need to use it appropriately so it doesn't sound, too stuffy. Natural flow is key.
Good point. Informative is next, providing useful information.
Educational, enlightening, instructive.
Often describes content, resources. The example, kids watching informative and educational shows. Clearly about conveying knowledge.
Yes, informative highlights that. Purpose, educating, enlightening, providing valuable knowledge, enhancing understanding.
Positive role of media in the example. Infrastructure is next. Basic systems and structures.
System is a synonym given.
Collocations. Transport infrastructure. Infrastructure projects. Example links good infrastructure to better quality of life. Foundational stuff.
Absolutely foundational. Infrastructure covers those essential systems and facilities a society needs to function. Transport, communication, utilities.
The basics.
Right. Investing in it is vital for economic development, community well-being, as the example shows.
Okay. Insights, meaning understanding or knowledge about something.
Understandings, perceptions, intuition.
Common pairing. Valuable insights. The example.
Yeah.
School lessons providing valuable insights into being good members of society. Deeper understanding.
Yes. Insights implies that deeper level. A sudden realization, a new perspective.
More than just facts.
Right. Profound comprehension. Gaining valuable insights is often the goal of learning, research, analysis.
Insufficient is next. Not enough.
Inadequate, lacking, deficient.
Often about resources, pairing, insufficient funds. The example discussed insufficient support for the poorest highlights a lack with bad consequences.
Exactly. Insufficient clearly indicates a shortage, not adequate to meet a need. Often points to situations where available resources or support aren't enough, leading to negative outcomes.
Like the poverty example. Innate is next. Existing from birth or natural.
Inborn, inherent, natural.
Collocation. Innate ability, the example, combining innate ability with hard work. Talents you're born with.
Yes, innate refers to qualities or abilities present from birth, not learned. Natural talents, inherent predispositions.
But the example says you still need hard work.
Often, yes. Innate ability is important, but usually needs effort to achieve real success. Nature and nurture.
Right. Inappropriate is next. Not suitable or proper.
Unsuitable, improper, unfit.
Main collocation. Inappropriate behavior. The example. Employees wearing inappropriate clothes for work. About what's acceptable in context.
Exactly. Inappropriate describes something not suitable or fitting for the situation. Context, expectations. Often relates to behavior, dress, language that breaks social or professional norms.
Like the work clothes example. Merit is next. Quality of being good or worthy.
Worth, value, excellence.
Common pairing. Academic merit. The example argued employee selection should be based on merit, deservingness based on qualifications.
Yes, merit emphasizes worthiness based on abilities, achievements, qualifications. The principle of deciding based on merit
is seen as fair and efficient.
Right. Often considered a cornerstone of fairness.
Okay. Mediocre.
Mediocre. Not very good, average.
Average, ordinary, so-so. The example was star athletes who started off mediocre. Just okay, not amazing.
Right. Neither particularly good nor bad, average range. But the example is hopeful.
How so?
Suggests initial mediocrity, doesn't rule out future excellence. You can improve.
Good point. Notable is next. Worthy of attention or important.
Remarkable, significant, noteworthy.
Collocations. A notable achievement. The example. Notable people's lives being in danger. Highlights something significant.
Yes. Notable draws attention to something significant, remarkable, worth noticing.
Yeah.
Helps highlight key points or illustrative examples.
And the example points to risks of being prominent. Numerous is next. Many in number.
Many. Several. Various.
Collocation, numerous times. The example discussed the workforce in numerous developed nations. Straightforward way to say a lot.
It is. Numerous clearly indicates a large quantity without needing an exact number, useful for conveying prevalence or widespread occurrence.
Like the workforce example. Okay, peers.
Peers, people the same age or status.
Equals, colleagues, contemporaries, common pairing, peer pressure.
Right.
The example. Kids outperforming their peers on tests. Comparison within a similar group.
Exactly. Peers are people in the same social group. Age, status, job. Comparing yourself to peers is common for gauging performance or development.
And peer pressure shows their influence.
Yes, a significant social dynamic.
Phenomenon is next. Something that happens or exists especially unusual.
Event, occurrence, happening.
Collocations, natural phenomenon, social phenomenon. The example suggested this phenomenon might lead to youth apathy in politics. Useful for describing interesting occurrences.
It is versatile.
Yeah.
Phenomenon describes any observable event, occurrence, fact, especially one that's interesting, unusual, maybe not fully understood.
Natural events, social trends.
Exactly. Like the political apathy example.
Proportion is next. A part of a whole or a percentage.
Part, portion, fraction.
Common pairing. Large proportion. The example. Allocating a certain proportion of vacancies to females, discussing parts of a whole.
Yes, proportion is key for talking about the relative size of a part compared to the whole. Allows precise communication about quantities, distributions. Often uses percentages or fractions.
Like the representation example.
Fair allocation.
Revenue is next. Income from business or government.
Income, earnings, profits, tax revenue.
Common pairing. Annual revenue.
Yeah.
The example linked state revenue to providing high-quality services, fundamental to finance.
Absolute core concept. Revenue is the income generated by businesses or governments. Understanding revenue streams is essential for financial health, funding public services.
Like the example showed. Okay, resent.
Resent, to feel angry or bitter about.
Begrudge, dislike, be annoyed by, pairing.
Yeah.
Resent the fact. The example, children not resenting their parents, a strong negative emotion.
It is. Resent describes strong anger, bitterness, ill will, often from a perceived injustice or offense. Powerful word for negative feelings, relationship strain.
Like the parent-child example hints at. Sector is next. Parts or divisions of a larger group.
Divisions, segments, areas.
Examples. The public sector. The science and technology sectors. The example mentions science and tech sectors. Useful for categorizing areas.
Very valuable for dividing a larger entity, economy, society into distinct parts.
Yeah.
Allows focused analysis of specific areas, like different industries.
Okay. Workforce.
Workforce, all the people who work in a company or country.
Staff, employees. Labor force.
Yeah.
Collocation. A skilled workforce. Example, multinational companies employing a large workforce. Central to employment economy talk.
Absolutely key term. Workforce is the total number of people employed or available for work. Its skills, its size are critical factors for success.
For nations and companies, okay? Gifted.
Gifted, having a special talent or ability.
Talented, skilled, exceptional. Collocation, a gifted children. Example, gifted children achieving goals early. Exceptional natural abilities.
Yes, gifted describes individuals with extraordinary natural talent or aptitude. Recognizing and supporting them is often a focus in education, talent development.
Potential for exceptional achievement.
Exactly, as the example illustrates.
Nutritional is next, relating to nutrients in food.
Dietary, nutritious, nourishing.
Pairings, nutritional value, nutritional deficiencies. Example, vegetarian diets potentially causing nutritional deficiencies, essential for health diet discussions.
Crucial adjective. Discussing food and health, focusing on the nutrients that sustain us. Understanding nutritional content, potential deficiencies is vital for well-being.
As the example points out, okay, thrive.
Thrive, to grow or develop well.
Flourish, prosper, succeed. Collocation, to thrive in. Example, some inborn qualities help people thrive in music or sports. Positive growth and success.
Yes, thrive conveys that strong sense of flourishing, positive development, success. Not just surviving, but actively growing, reaching full potential.
Often due to good conditions or innate qualities.
As the example suggests.
Unsafe is next. Not safe or dangerous.
Dangerous, risky, hazardous.
Collocation, unsafe conditions, unsafe environment. Example, being a star can create an unsafe environment. Highlights lack of security.
Yes, unsafe clearly indicates danger, risk, lack of security. Identifying and mitigating unsafe conditions is crucial everywhere.
And the example makes an interesting point about fame's downsides.
It does.
And finally, unwind, meaning to relax after work or tension.
Relax, rest, de-stress.
Collocation, unwind after. Example, television can help people unwind about reducing stress.
Exactly. Unwind describes that process of relaxing, releasing tension, often after work or stress. Important part of self-care, well-being.
And the example shows a common way people do it. Wow, that was quite a linguistic workout.
Of a lot of words.
A really rich collection of vocabulary we just went through. Now, it's tempting, isn't it, to think, okay, use all these fancy words. That's the key to sounding advanced.
Right, just sprinkle them in.
But the YouTube video we got this from, it actually shared a fascinating statistic.
Oh, what was that?
In high-scoring student essays for IELTS, only a really small percentage of words were actually C1 or C2 level. Like around 3 per C2 and maybe 6 per C1.
That is low.
Yeah. And even expert writers, apparently, use these advanced words pretty sparingly. What does that tell us, really, about good communication?
It's a powerful illustration, isn't it? It shows that clarity, precision, and accurately using a strong core vocabulary, that's far more critical.
More important than just dropping in complex words.
Much more. Effective communication is about being understood, making your point clearly. A well-chosen advanced word can definitely add nuance, add impact.
But too many, or using them wrongly.
Can actually get in the way of clarity, make things confusing.
Right. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. How might focusing on truly understanding and correctly integrating, maybe even just a select few of these more nuanced words, how could that enhance the clarity and impact of your communication?
Yeah, think about specific areas where you want to be more precise.
Exactly. And maybe think about which of these words we discussed really sparked your curiosity or seemed particularly relevant to what you're interested in right now.
It's not about memorizing a list.
No, it's about deepening your understanding of the tools you have to express yourself effectively.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take your sources, dig in, and pull out the insights you need.
That's right.
Today, our focus is on the learner who wants to level up their spoken English, but, without getting totally swamped.
Exactly. And the learner gave us a great source, the J Forest English YouTube video, 1-hour lesson, IELTS full vocabulary course.
Okay.
So our mission really is to extract those practical, actionable bits for improving vocabulary and fluency day to day, not just prepping for a test.
Love it. Okay, practical strategies. So the video starts with, the classic question. Where do you live?
The basics.
And the basic answer, I was born and raised in city. Grammatically, that's super simple, right? Past tensivity, solid start.
Absolutely solid. It's clear, it's simple, but what's great is how the video immediately shows you how to build on that.
Right.
Adding just a little bit more. I was born and raised in city, but now I live in city region. It's a small step, but it adds a layer.
It does, gives it a bit more story. And then it gets into talking about how long you've lived somewhere, using the present perfect.
Yes. I've lived here for over 10 years. That present perfect tells you it started in the past, but it's still true now. That connection to the present is key.
Yeah, still active. And there's that related tense too, the present perfect continuous.
Right. I've been living here for over 10 years. The video points out, and this is interesting, it's typically used with just live work and study.
Oh, okay.
It sort of emphasizes the ongoing, continuous nature of the action.
Gotcha. And it also clarified using for 10 years, specific time, versus for several years, more general.
Exactly. Painting that clearer picture of the time involved.
So for you, the learner, this first bit shows how you can take a simple answer and just layer in more sophisticated grammar to say more, basically.
Precisely. Start comfortable, then add those elements strategically. It sounds much more natural.
Okay, let's shift gears to talking about work. One of the first things, and it seems small, but it's huge, is articles, job titles.
Oh, yeah. So common.
It flags the correct "I'm an engineer" versus the incorrect "I'm engineer."
It's one of those details that really polytomize your English, and it covers using the, too, for those unique roles, like I'm the executive director.
Right, or when the context makes the organization clear.
Although you don't always need to name the company when you use a or an.
Okay, now here's something I found really useful. Using gerund statements. That sounds fancy, but the example makes it clear. Instead of, I am an engineer and it's rewarding, you say, being an engineer is rewarding. Starting with being. That feels more advanced somehow.
It does. And being there is acting like a noun, a gerund. It lets you talk about the idea or the experience of being an engineer.
Right.
The structure's pretty simple. Gerund, then the verb, then the rest. And the video gives great examples with verbs about what you enjoy.
Like, I love using my analytical skills.
Exactly. Or, I enjoy collaborating with my team. It sounds much more engaged.
And then it encourages adding adjectives, making the descriptions richer. Like, not just brainstorming solutions, but brainstorming unique solutions to complex problems.
It adds that texture, that detail, makes it more vivid.
Yeah. And it also mentions using transition words, little connectors like however for contrast or specifically to give details.
Those are like little signposts for your listener, helping them follow along. Super important for clarity.
And I like the idiom they included, work around the clock.
Ah, yes, working nonstop.
Using idioms like that, it shows a deeper feel for the language, doesn't it? More natural.
Definitely. And these work strategies, they're not just for an exam context. They're useful everywhere. Networking, interviews, just office chat, presenting yourself clearly.
Totally. Okay, let's move to hobbies. The video suggests starting with a gerund statement, like sharing your general opinion first.
Yeah, like in my opinion, having hobbies is integral to living a fulfilling life.
Why do you think that's a good way to start? Seems a bit formal, maybe.
Well, it shows you've thought about it more broadly. It adds a bit of perspective before you just list things. And it reminds us of other ways to give opinions, too.
Right. In my view, from my perspective, personally, I think, variety is good.
Definitely. And then, to show you're really keen on a hobby, it introduces to be an avid plus noun.
I'm an avid reader or traveler. Avid really punches it up, shows passion.
Exactly. It adds that intensity. Then it shows using those gerunds again to explain why you enjoy it. Starting with the activity.
Hiking gives me the opportunity to.
Or starting with the noun form, guitar gives me the opportunity to. Same idea, different structure.
Okay, but what if you don't really have hobbies right now? Maybe you're too busy.
The video has a really smart approach for that. You can use the present perfect to explain. Until now, my focus has been on my career.
That makes sense. It's honest.
Yeah, gives a reason. Then you pivot to the future. However, I'm considering taking up hobby. And it flags the grammar, consider, plus the doing form.
And take up that phrasal verb for starting something new.
Right. Or the alternative.
However, I'd love to take up hobby. Using would love plus the base verb, that feels maybe a bit more aspirational.
It does. And even if you're not doing it yet, you can talk about the future benefit using the future simple with a gerund statement.
Like, drawing will give me the opportunity to relax.
Exactly. So even without a current hobby, you can still talk about it articulately, focusing on priorities and future plans.
Okay, family next. The video introduces a great adjective. Close-knit.
Oh, that's a lovely one. Describes families with really strong bonds.
Yeah, or the simpler phrase, my family and I are very close. Same meaning, really conveys warmth.
It does. Close-knit is very efficient, packs a lot of meaning in. And a quick grammar reminder.
Yes, everyone. Looks plural, but it's singular.
Right. Everyone gets along, not everyone get along.
And then there's that brilliant expression for resemblance. Take after.
Yes. Meaning you look or act like someone usually older.
I take after my dad with his terrible jokes. Something like that.
Exactly. Or she takes after her mother in terms of her artistic talent. It covers looks and personality. It's just very natural, very common.
Why do you think it's so common?
That's a good question. I think because it's idiomatic, it sounds less like a textbook definition and more like, well, how people actually talk about family connections. It suggests that deeper link.
Makes sense. Okay. Shifting to travel. Expressing the desire to go somewhere.
Right. I'd love the opportunity to see a landmark, or I'd love the opportunity to travel to or visit a place.
The prepositions. See a thing, travel to a place. Got to watch those.
They can be tricky. Precision matters. And for hypothetical travel.
The second conditional. If I could travel anywhere, I would choose. Shows you can handle those what-if scenarios.
Yep, more complex grammar. And for talking about travel dreams, those gerund statements again.
Visiting Japan is at the top of my list. Simple enough.
But then you can elevate it using the present perfect for a long-held dream.
Right. Traveling to Japan has been at the top of my list for as long as I can remember. That adds that feeling of time, of longing.
Exactly. Adds that dimension. And to explain why, use opinion words.
From my perspective, Mount Fuji is just breathtaking. Something like that.
Perfect. Reinforces your reason. And finally, for travel, that really advanced expression.
Revel in the opportunity to, like, really soak it up and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd revel in the opportunity to explore ancient Mayan ruins. It's much stronger than just enjoy. Shows real vocabulary depth.
Okay, and then there was that bonus section. Clarification phrases. These are gold.
Absolutely lifesavers. When you stumble or think maybe you weren't clear,
Phrases like, what I'm trying to say is, or what I mean is.
to put it another way, in other words,
Yeah.
the advice is spot on. Pick a couple you like and practice them.
Makes sense. Get comfortable with them.
It just smooths out the conversation, shows you're actively trying to be clear, which is great.
Okay, let's get into transition words. The video calls them the glue, holding ideas together. Makes sense. Makes you sound more organized, more advanced.
And the way it categorizes them is super helpful for learning. Cause and effect first,
Ranging from formal, like consequently, hence,
down to more everyday ones like so, since, because. And it reminds you to match the formality to the situation. Crucial point.
then chronology showing order, firstly, then maybe next, afterwards, and wrapping up with finally, lastly. The key is variety, right? Don't just say first, second, third.
Exactly. Mix it up. For contrast, you've got however, although, though, and just plain but. Again, different levels of formality.
And for adding points. Furthermore, moreover, down to also and.
When you want to speak generally, there are great phrases like in general, generally speaking, by and large, most of the time.
Giving examples. For example, for instance, easy enough.
For emphasis. In fact, as a matter of fact, adds a bit of punch.
And then wrapping up conclusions. Lots of options here too. Formal in conclusion, to summarize, down to informal, so to wrap up, all in all.
And what's really good is how it shows you using them together, building a more complex point by linking different types.
Yeah, like start general, add contrast, give an example, explain why, add another point. It encourages you to actually use them actively.
Exactly. That's the key active use.
Okay, next up, opinion words. Also crucial for sounding natural and fluent, not just stating facts. And again, the categories help.
Totally. First, sharing your opinion. Lots of choices. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective.
Even stronger ones like I strongly believe, or there's no doubt in my mind that. The advice to pick a few favorites to start with seems smart. Don't try to memorize all of them at once.
Good advice. Then agreeing. Simple. I agree. I think so too. Up to more enthusiastic ones.
Absolutely. Definitely. I couldn't agree more. Or that idiom, you hit the nail on the head.
Nice one. And for agreeing with a negative statement, like, I don't think that's right.
Neither do I. Very useful little phrase.
Then disagreeing. This is handled really well. It gives direct options, but also emphasizes softer ways.
Right, like, I'm afraid I disagree, or acknowledging their point first. I see where you're coming from, but. Or, I respect your opinion, but. Much more polite sometimes.
Definitely smoother in many situations. Then there's sharing a general opinion, things people often say.
It's said that. It's believed that. Most people agree that.
Useful for introducing common ideas before you maybe agree or disagree with them yourself, using the phrases we just talked about.
And finally, asking for someone else's opinion. So important for conversation.
Essential. From simple, what do you think, or do you agree, to what's your take on it, or what are your thoughts?
Or even asking about their experience. Has that been your experience? How do you see the situation? Loads of options to keep the conversation flowing.
It's a really comprehensive toolkit for opinions, and the suggestion to practice in the comments is great immediate application.
Okay, now this next bit I found fascinating. Transforming a basic daily routine description into something advanced, like C1 level. It's like a language makeover show.
Huh. It really is. It takes Mark's routine and breaks down the specific vocabulary and grammar that make it sound so much more sophisticated.
So instead of I wake up at 6:30, it's the alarm rings at 6:30 a.m. signaling. Using that present participle, signaling, and adding with precision.
Yeah, and instead of he organizes his morning, it's with precision he orchestrates the morning routine ensuring. Orchestrates is such a better verb there, more evocative.
And the senses, not just the smell of coffee, but the aroma of coffee. Aroma feels nicer, more positive.
Definitely. And we see more of those ing forms used as modifiers, like reviewing his schedule, preparing for the day, or leading his team, motivating them.
Right, and more advanced vocabulary pops up everywhere. Mark transitions into his managerial role, not just starts his job.
Back-to-back Zoom meetings instead of just many meetings. Paints a clearer picture of the intensity.
And Mark excels in conveying intricate ideas, so much stronger than He's good at communicating complex ideas.
Absolutely. Even the end of the day gets upgraded as the workday concludes, not ends, and idioms like races against the clock.
Habits become integral parts of their routine, not just important. Sounds more significant.
And describing the evening cherishes the moments of connection instead of just enjoys time, reunites in collective activities instead of spends quality time.
And instead of a walk, it's a stroll. And the video points out those complex sentences using as to connect clauses.
Right. As the clock inches towards bedtime, great phrasing, Mark carves out a brief period for personal reflection. Carves out suggests making special time for it.
Even getting into bed. Not gets into bed, but slips into his comfortable bed and savors the tranquility that descends upon his home.
Wow. It's beautifully descriptive. The contrast really shows the impact of richer vocabulary and more varied sentence structures. It's a great model for you, the learner, to aim for.
Definitely something to study and try to adapt. Okay. Next, verb tenses. This is super practical. The video claims just 5 tenses make up over 96% of native speech. Is that right?
That's the figure cited, and it makes a lot of sense. Focusing on these 5 gives you massive coverage.
So what are they?
Okay, number 1 by far is present simple, over 57%. Used for routines, habits, facts, feelings, schedules.
Got it. Basic structure, add eds for he, she. Adverbs like always, often, sometimes.
Exactly. Number 2, past simple, almost 20%, for completed actions at a specific past time. Keywords, yesterday, last week, in 2010, ago.
Simple past tense, regular ed or irregular verbs. Check.
Number 3, future simple using will, about 8.5%. For predictions based on opinion, spontaneous decisions, promises, offers, often used with those opinion words we talked about.
Right. I think it will rain.
Yep. Number 4, present perfect, about 6%. Structure is have or has, plus the past participle.
Okay, uses.
Completed past action with a present result, life experience within an unfinished time, have you ever, and actions started in the past, continuing now, but remember, mainly with live work study for that last one.
And the big rule, no specific past time. Can't say, I have finished it yesterday.
Exactly. Use past simple for that. I finished it yesterday. Crucial difference.
Okay, and number 5.
Present continuous, just over 5%. Amisar plus verbing for actions happening right now or planned future actions.
Like, I am speaking now, or I am meeting her tomorrow.
Perfect. The video mentions native speakers sometimes use it with always for annoying habits, like he's always losing his keys, but advises learners maybe stick to present simple with always for clarity.
Okay, good tip. So mastering these 5 is really the core of fluency.
It provides a very strong foundation, absolutely.
For the final section, really practical tips for thinking and speaking in English simultaneously. Tip 1. Surround yourself with English.
Immerse your environment. Sticky notes on objects, English to-do lists, change your phone language, constant exposure.
Tip 2. Use that wasted time. Working out, showering, commuting.
Turn it into productive time by actively thinking in English. Narrate what you're doing. Plan your day in English in your head.
Tip 3. Make simple observations. Look around. Describe what you see in English. Mindfulness meets language practice.
Yeah, at the park. There's a dog. The dog is running. Simple stuff.
Tip 4 builds on that. Add complexity. Don't just stop at simple sentences. Add adjectives, adverbs, opinions.
The dog is running quickly. In my opinion, it looks very happy. Start simple, then layer it.
Tip 5. Use images. Find pictures online. Practice describing them simple first, then complex. Good short exercise.
5 or 10 minutes a day really helps build that descriptive muscle.
Tip 6. Speak out loud. Verbalize those thoughts and observations, even if you're alone.
Builds confidence in actually producing the language. Pretend you're on the phone if you feel silly.
Good idea. Tip 7. A daily recap. Summarize your day in English.
Think about it, speak it, or journal it. What did you do? Past tense. What was the best part? What are you grateful for? What could be better? Plan for tomorrow. Future tense. Great practice.
Uses all the skills. 10 minutes before bed, maybe journaling.
Excellent habit. And the final tip, number 8. Crucial.
Be patient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes time. Aim for that 1% improvement daily. It adds up massively over a year. Don't expect miracles overnight, but trust the process. Consistency is key.
Noticeable results after 30 days, good after 60, great after 90. It builds.
Precisely. Commitment pays off.
So, wrapping up our deep dive for you, the learner. We've covered a lot. Vocabulary for common topics using transition and opinion words effectively.
Looked at transforming simple descriptions into advanced ones, drilled down on those 5 key verb tenses, and shared really practical tips for thinking and speaking in English.
We really hope this gives you some clear, actionable strategies to work with to help you move beyond those basic phrases and sound more confident, more fluent, more you in English.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe take a moment now to think about just 1 or 2 things from this discussion that really click for you. How could you start using them, like today or tomorrow?
Good call. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Language learning is huge, right? But thinking about all this, what's one small, consistent action you can commit to starting today that will move you closer to your long-term fluency goals?
That's a great question to ponder. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Ever get that little flutter of nerves right before you need to speak English, maybe in a test or meeting someone new, and you're just not quite sure how to confidently get the ball rolling?
Yeah, that moment of hesitation.
Exactly. Well, today on the deep dive, we're zeroing in on that exact feeling. We've taken a really close look at some insightful information about how high-level English speakers nail their opening lines, specifically in the IELTS speaking test. Think of this as like your fast track to sounding more fluent and, in command right from the very first words you speak.
Definitely. And for this session, we've dug into an analysis from the IELTS Advantage YouTube channel. They've done some really great work breaking down lots of high-scoring speaking performances. They pinpointed the opening strategies that consistently seem to work best for different kinds of questions.
Right. And our goal today for you, the listener, is really to pull out the most practical, the most immediately useful techniques, stuff to help you feel more ready and, less overwhelmed when you're facing spoken English questions.
Yeah, finding those little aha moments.
Exactly. The ones that just make it clear how to approach different conversational situations with confidence.
So to give you a clear picture of what we'll cover, we're going to explore several common types of questions, the ones you're pretty likely to run into.
Okay.
Things like questions about your preferences, your opinions, talking about past experiences, hypothetical scenarios.
Those tricky ones.
Yeah, and those nuanced it depends questions too. Plus simpler personal questions, deeper analytical ones, and how to bring in personal examples effectively. And for each type, we'll highlight the best ways to kick off your response, all based on this detailed analysis we looked at.
Okay, sounds great. Let's dive in then. First up, preferences. The sort of question, right? Like, do you prefer to study in the morning or at night?
Classic.
Yeah. And the analysis looked at different ways people start answering this. Turns out some ways are much more common among the high scorers. Things like just, yes, definitely, or actually my preference changes, or even I used to prefer. They weren't the top strategies.
No. And what's really fascinating here, a key insight, is that the most effective way, used by a pretty significant chunk, 37% of those high-scoring candidates, is a direct modal statement. So phrases like, I'd say I generally prefer mornings simply because.
Using would or I'd rather.
Exactly. I'd rather study in the morning because.
Yeah.
Using those modal verbs like would, could, might right at the start.
That's interesting. Why do you think that specific strategy works so well? Why is it so common?
Well, it seems starting with that direct modal statement, it just gives immediate clarity. It also kind of projects confidence, decisiveness, which examiners probably see as signs of, higher proficiency.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So connecting it to the bigger picture for preferences, they like a direct answer than the reason?
Pretty much. So the key takeaway for you listening is start by clearly stating your preference, maybe using I'd say or I'd rather, and then explain why.
Got it. Okay, let's move on to opinions then. A typical question might be something like, do you think children should learn to cook at school? And again, like with preferences, there were ways people started that just weren't as common among the top performers, like a really plain, yes, I completely agree.
Right. What seems key for opinion questions is using natural fillers first, followed by a really clear statement of your view. The analysis found beginnings like, well, in my opinion, it depends on, or actually, I think children should definitely learn. So those were very common.
Okay, so well or actually. What's the thinking there? Why add the filler?
I think it just makes the response sound more like a natural conversation, less like you're reading a prepared script.
Yeah.
That little, well, actually, it gives you just a tiny pause, maybe to gather your thoughts before you state your opinion directly.
That's a good point. So those little conversational bits make it smoother or natural.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
The takeaway here is to get comfortable using words like, well, actually, or similar things just to lead into your opinion statement.
Okay. Next up, talking about past experiences. Imagine being asked, describe a time when you traveled somewhere new. Now, some people might start off with a general comment about travel, maybe. But the high-level speakers in this analysis, they tended to be more direct.
Yeah, what's really striking here is the strong tendency, we're talking over 60% of candidates at band 7 and above, to start with a direct recall statement.
Okay, like what?
Phrases like, well, I remember last year I visited, or it happened when I went to, or even back in 2019 I had the opportunity to.
Ah, okay. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It immediately signals you're about to tell a specific story from the past. And it tells the examiner you're probably going to use the right tense, the past tense.
Exactly. Starting with, I remember, or it happened when, you're directly answering, setting the scene for a story, and showing you've got control over past tense grammar. So the listener takeaway. When asked about a past experience, start with a phrase that clearly signals you're recalling something specific.
Okay, let's talk hypothetical questions now. Thinking about something like, if you could live in any city, where would you choose?
The if questions.
Yeah. And apparently there were some less effective, maybe even grammatically wrong ways people started these, like, I definitely live in London, or I will live.
Right, missing the hypothetical nature. The clear trend here, used by about 55% of high-level speakers, was using would plus a verb. That clearly shows you're talking about an imaginary situation.
So, like, I would probably choose London because...
Exactly. Or I would definitely opt for a city with, using would correctly.
And why is getting that grammar right in the opening so crucial here?
Well, it immediately shows your control over the language, right? Avoids any confusion about whether you're talking real or imaginary. Accuracy matters.
Right. Accuracy and appropriateness for the context.
Yeah.
Key parts of communication.
Absolutely. So the listener takeaway for hypotheticals is pretty straightforward. Make sure you use would correctly to signal you're talking about something unreal or imagined.
Okay. Now for those sometimes tricky, it depends questions. You know, the ones where there isn't really a single right answer, you need to show you can see different sides.
Yeah, the balanced view questions. What's interesting is how the top speakers signal that balance right away. While some might just jump to one viewpoint, the analysis found phrases like, well, it depends on the person, because were used by about 31% of the top scorers.
Oh, I can see why that works. It immediately tells the examiner, okay, this person isn't going to give a simple answer. They're acknowledging complexity.
Exactly. It shows you can think critically, consider different angles. That's a valuable skill. And like the analysis pointed out, you can then expand on that, explore the different sides, maybe offer your own view within that. Using if can also help develop these answers.
Right.
So the takeaway for it depends questions. Use phrases like it depends to show you see multiple sides and then go on to explain those different perspectives.
Okay. Let's switch gears a bit to simpler part one questions. Those more personal, direct ones like, where do you live?
The basics.
You might feel tempted to launch into a long, detailed story, but the analysis suggests something different.
Yeah, what's really noteworthy here is the emphasis on directness. Over 65%, a big majority of Band 8 and 9 students, kept their Part 1 answers simple, straightforward.
So just like, say.
Something like, I live in Manchester, and it's quite a vibrant city. Or I study in London, which I find really stimulating. Direct answer first, maybe a little extra detail after.
So no need to try and overcomplicate the opening for these basic personal things.
Exactly. Examiners actually appreciate that clarity and conciseness for these questions. Trying to sound too elaborate in Part 1 can actually come across as unnatural.
Or like you're trying too hard.
Yeah, maybe trying to overcompensate. So the listener takeaway is clear. Simple personal questions. Give it a direct answer first. Start clear. You can add a bit more, but start direct.
Okay. Now let's move to the deeper part 3 questions, the more analytical ones, like, why do some people choose to live in cities rather than rural areas? This needs a more thought-out response, right?
Absolutely. And the way high-level speakers often begin reflects that need for more thought. The analysis found that using short bridging phrases works well. Phrases that acknowledge the question's depth, followed by an opinion or explanation.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like, that's an interesting question. I think some people enjoy the convenience, or, that's a complex issue. Perhaps one reason is this approach was seen in about 46% of the top scoring Part 3 responses.
That makes a lot of sense. It signals you've actually, processed the question, not just jumping in. Probably gives you a second to think, too.
It definitely does. It shows the examiner you understand it needs more analysis. So the takeaway for these complex questions, Start by briefly acknowledging the complexity. That's interesting. That's complex, before you offer your reasoned explanation.
Right. What about when you need to give a personal example? Say, you're asked, can you give an example of when you learned something new? How do the top speakers usually lead into those?
The analysis suggests that simple, direct lead-ins are the most common. Things like, certainly, for example, last year I, or sure, a good example of that would be when I. These kinds of openings were used by around 39% of successful speakers, often with little bridging words like sure or certainly.
It sounds very natural, doesn't it? Almost like how you'd start telling a story to a friend. Didn't the source mention a coffee shop analogy? Like, how would you start telling a story in a casual chat?
Exactly that. You wouldn't just launch into all the details immediately. You'd probably use a little bridge like, oh yeah, actually, or let me think. Yes, for example.
Yeah.
So the listener takeaway is pretty simple. Use a natural bridging phrase, maybe for example or something similar, just to smoothly introduce your personal stories.
Okay. And finally, the big one. What should you do if you get a question and you honestly just don't know much about the topic? It feels really tempting sometimes to just say, I have no idea.
Yeah, it does. But the analysis is quite clear. Directly refusing or just saying, I have no idea, is generally not the best move. It can unfortunately give the examiner the impression that your overall English ability might be a bit limited.
Okay, so what's a better approach then?
Yeah.
If you're genuinely stuck on the topic?
Well, the analysis showed that a huge majority, 90% of high-scoring candidates actually attempt an answer, even if they're unsure.
How do they do that?
They use phrases that signal uncertainty but still offer something, like, I'm not entirely sure, but if I had to guess, or, it might depend on, perhaps my understanding is.
So you acknowledge you're not an expert, but you still try.
Exactly. It shows you have enough English skill to speculate, to explain your thinking, even if your knowledge on that specific topic is limited. The really crucial takeaway here for you, the listener, is even if you feel uncertain, try to offer something. An opinion, a guess. Use phrases that show you're speculating. Remember, it's primarily a test of your communication skills in English, not necessarily a test of your expert knowledge on every possible subject under the sun.
Okay, so if we boil it all down, the main idea here isn't about finding one magic phrase for everything, is it?
Not at all.
It's more about choosing an opening that fits the question type, being accurate with grammar, and sounding natural like you're actually having a conversation.
That sums it up perfectly. Appropriateness, accuracy, and naturalness. Those are the keys.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to sort of mull over. Think about how consciously trying out just one or two of these opening strategies could actually affect your confidence, maybe the whole flow of your next English conversation.
Yeah, what kind of little breakthroughs, those aha moments, might you have just by changing how you start?
Maybe start paying attention to how proficient English speakers begin their responses, in podcasts, shows, conversations you hear.
Good idea. You'll likely start spotting some of these effective patterns we've talked about.
Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure.
We really hope these insights give you a valuable, maybe even a bit of a shortcut to feeling more confident and communicating more effectively. Ever feel like you're, navigating a linguistic obstacle course? You hear a word, sounds so much like another, but the meaning is, miles apart.
Oh yeah, and a classic English learner frustration, isn't it?
Totally. And get this, our source material for today, this YouTube video transcript, it actually grapples with a whopping 67 of these confusing English words.
67. Wow.
Yeah. Kind of makes you realize you're definitely not alone in this struggle.
It really shines a light on a key aspect of mastering English, doesn't it? It's not just about building a big vocabulary.
Right.
It's about developing that keen ear and eye for these subtle distinctions that can completely change the whole message.
Absolutely. And that's exactly where we're diving deep today on the deep dive. We've got excerpts from that very video transcript. It's a real treasure trove of linguistic puzzles. Our mission, should you choose to accept it, and well, you're already listening, so you have, is to equip you with a much sharper understanding of some of the most common and frankly confusing English words. We want to inject a bit more confidence into your English.
Right, so you can speak and understand without that nagging feeling of like, am I using this right?
Exactly.
Think of this as your insider's guide to untangling some of the naughtiest parts of English vocabulary. We'll be pulling out the crucial differences and looking at real examples from the source, aiming to make these distinctions, crystal clear.
So how do we even begin to tackle this mountain of vocabulary?
Good question.
We're going to take it step by step. First, we'll zero in on confusing nouns. Then we'll get our heads around some tricky verbs.
Okay.
And finally, we'll sort out those similar-sounding adjectives. We'll even pepper in some of those quiz-like questions from the transcript just to keep things engaging and, test our understanding.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with nouns. And what better place to begin than job versus work?
Ah, yes. This is such a foundational distinction. As the source points out, a job. That refers to a specific paid position you hold. It's your official role.
Okay.
You might say, she applied for a new job at the law firm. Very concrete. The takeaway here, think specific role for job.
Specific role, got it.
And general effort for work helps avoid sounding unnatural.
Right. And work then is more about the general effort, the tasks you do, the labor itself.
Less about the formal title.
So you could ask, do you like your job?
Yeah.
The specific role, but also, do you like your work? Focusing more on the day-to-day stuff.
Precisely. And interestingly, the transcript mentions native speakers often use them interchangeably in that kind of question.
Huh. Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. I think it's because in many contexts, the general feeling about the tasks involved kind of overlaps with the satisfaction you get from the specific role,
Makes sense.
But for learners, keeping that core distinction in mind, specific position versus general effort, that's really key for accurate usage. What's also fascinating is the grammar. Work often acts as a collective noun. You wouldn't typically say a work in the same way you'd say a job. It's usually, I have so much work to do, work stays singular there.
Exactly. The transcript throws in a perfect quiz example. He's looking for new, but finding a good takes time.
Right.
And the answer, of course, he's looking for new work. The general effort of seeking employment, but finding a good job, a specific position, takes time.
Perfect illustration. Really lays it out clearly.
Okay, next up, a pair that often causes a stumble. Story versus history.
Yeah, the fundamental difference here is that blend of fact and fiction. A story is a narrative. It can be rooted in reality or purely imaginative, and it's told for various purposes: entertainment, education, sharing experiences. Think about the phrase, tell a story.
Right. Character's plot.
Exactly. It evokes all that.
Whereas history, as our source underscores, is a factual account of past events. Like, the book is based on real history, not fiction. That's a crucial dividing line.
It is.
So if I were to say, my grandfather always told fascinating stories about the war, that would be different from saying, my grandfather lived through a significant period of history.
Precisely. The stories, while maybe based on historical events, are his personal narratives, his way of recounting his experiences.
Okay.
The history is the broader factual record of that period. Notice also the prepositions we often use. The story about versus the history of.
Oh, boy.
The transcript also highlights verbs commonly associated with history, like learn, read, discover, discuss, debate, all actions tied to, factual inquiry.
And another quiz to really nail this down. He told a funny history, but it had nothing to do with actual.
An easy one.
Yeah. He told a funny story, but it had nothing to do with actual history. You wouldn't really tell history in the same way, would you?
Not in that narrative sense, no.
Okay. Let's move on to two words often used around a major life event. Wedding versus marriage. Why do these tend to get mixed up?
Well, I think the confusion arises because one leads directly to the other, right? The wedding is the specific event, the ceremony where two people become married.
The big day.
Exactly. A single occasion. Yep. Date, time, location. Were you invited to their wedding? That's a natural question for the ceremony.
But marriage is the ongoing thing, the legal and social union after they're married.
Yeah. It's not a singular event. You can ask, when is your wedding?
Yeah.
It's a point in time.
Uh-huh.
But it sounds, odd to ask, when is your marriage? Instead, you'd ask, how long have you been married?
Yeah.
Focusing on the duration of the relationship.
So the wedding is the start, marriage is the journey. Got it.
Exactly. The transcript provides a really stark example. Their wedding didn't last long, which would imply the event itself was maybe rushed or even called off.
Okay.
In contrast, their marriage didn't last long means their relationship ended after they were married. Two very different implications.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. And the quiz solidifies it. They're beautiful, but there has been full of challenges. Their wedding was beautiful, but their marriage has been full of challenges.
Yeah.
You attend a wedding, you're in a marriage.
Spot on.
All right, let's tackle a pair that's all about spelling and, crucially, pronunciation.
Yeah.
Desert with one S and dessert with two S's. What's the key here?
It really comes down to stress and those extra es. Desert ones refers to that dry, arid land, sparse vegetation.
Like the Sahara.
Exactly. And the stress, it falls on the first syllable. is. Think vast, sandy landscapes. The tip here, one's dry place, stress on is.
Okay, dessert.
And dessert, two es's, is that delightful sweet course you enjoy at the end of a meal.
Cake.
Ah.
Yes.
Yes. Here, the stress is on the second syllable. Dessert. Think sugary treats. Two es's, sweet thing, stress on dessert.
Dessert.
Okay. The transcript offers a fantastic sentence to drill the pronunciation. After crossing the desert, we enjoyed a delicious dessert.
I hear it. After crossing the desert, we enjoyed a delicious dessert.
Hear how the stress shifts. Makes all the difference. And just to be super clear for you listening, the phonetic spellings are Eva's sort for the dry land.
Dessert.
And Deva's suit for the sweet treat.
Desert. Got it. Absolutely. Now, let's chew on price versus cost. They often seem interchangeable, but there's a significant distinction. What's the core difference?
Okay, so the price is basically the amount of money you need to pay to buy something. It's what you see on the price tag.
Straightforward. What's the price of that new phone?
Exactly. Cost, however, it encompasses the total expenditure. All the direct and indirect expenses associated with getting or using something.
Like hilly fees.
Sort of. The transcript's example is spot on.
Yeah.
The cost of studying abroad is high when you factor in tuition, housing, food, and transportation.
Right. The price might just be the tuition fee.
But the overall cost includes everything else you have to pay.
Okay.
And cost can also function as a verb. How much does this cost?
Right. You wouldn't say, how much does this price?
No. Price mainly operates as a noun in that way. The concept of total cost, as the transcript mentions, really highlights those additional, often less obvious expenses beyond the initial price tag. So the quick tip, price is the tag, cost is the total outlay.
And the quiz neatly wraps this up. The adunk of the car was low, but the long term of insurance and maintenance is high.
Yeah.
The initial price of the car might have been attractive, but the total cost of ownership over time turns out to be considerable. Okay, let's consider two words relating to likelihood. Chance versus opportunity.
Okay, so chance refers to the possibility or probability of something happening. It's a more neutral term.
Like, there's a 60% chance of rain today.
Exactly. It doesn't inherently carry a positive or negative judgment.
But opportunity is different.
Yes. Opportunity is a favorable set of circumstances. It presents itself for achieving a goal or some positive outcome. It has a definite positive connotation.
Like this scholarship is a fantastic opportunity.
Precisely. To further your education. Notice how we often modify these words, too. We talk about a slim chance or a good chance, focusing on probability. With opportunity, we use positive adjectives. Great, amazing, golden, emphasizing how advantageous it is.
So quick tip. Chance is neutral possibility. Opportunity is positive possibility.
You got it.
And the quiz reinforces this. This internship is a real, and you have very little of winning the lottery. A real opportunity, something beneficial to pursue, and very little chance. A low probability of winning the lottery. Makes perfect sense. Let's move on to the financial realm with loan versus debt.
Okay. A loan is a specific amount of money that's borrowed and needs to be repaid, usually with interest.
Right. You take out a loan for a house or a car.
Exactly. It's the act of borrowing a defined sum. Debt, on the other hand, is the total amount of money that is owed. It's the accumulation of all your outstanding loans and other financial obligations.
So you have debt because you took out loans.
Pretty much. A loan is a transaction. Debt is the state of owing.
Grammatically, debt is often treated as a collective noun. So you typically say, I have a lot of debt, not usually I have many debts in these general contexts.
Good point.
Also worth remembering, as the transcript does, the silent B in debt, it's pronounced debt.
Debt, right. No B sound.
Nope.
And the quiz clarifies the relationship. Debt had helped him buy the motorcycle, but now he has to manage his debt.
So.
The loan made the purchase possible, but now he's dealing with the debt, the total sum he owes. Right, now we have another spelling and sound pairing. Suit versus sweet. What's the key here?
It's all about that middle vowel sound and, of course, the meaning. Suit refers to a set of matching garments, jacket, trousers, often formal.
Like for an interview.
Exactly. The pronunciation is suit. rhymes with boot. It can also mean a legal action, but that's a different context.
Okay, disease.
Suite, however, refers to a set of connected rooms, often in a hotel.
Ah, the fancy hotel room.
Usually, yeah. The pronunciation is sweet, rhyming with sweet, like sugar. It can also mean a collection of software programs.
Swist.
Yeah.
So we like you and suit, E like C and sweet.
That's a good way to remember it. The transcript provides a clear illustration. He wore a navy blue suit, so-sit to the interview. Our hotel suite suit had a beautiful ocean view.
Different spellings, different sounds, totally different things.
Completely.
And the quiz tests this directly. Why are you wearing your in this? The answer. Why are you wearing your suit, so-sit in our suite suites? A slightly comical image.
Indeed.
Okay, next up, receipt versus recipe. Another pair where spelling and pronunciation are the trick.
Okay, receipt. That's the little piece of paper you get after buying something. Proof of payment.
Right, keep it for returns.
Exactly. And that P, silent. The pronunciation is recentist.
Thanks.
But with a silent pen.
Recis, got it.
Recipe, on the other hand, is a set of instructions for preparing food.
Like for baking a cake.
Yep. The pronunciation is recipe. Stress on the first syllable. Think
Recipe.
The transcript highlights how using words like lost or need immediately tells you which word is meant. I lost the receipt, can't verify the purchase.
Right.
I lost the recipe. Dinner might be interesting.
Huh. And the quiz puts it together. I kept the recipes for the groceries, and I followed to bake the cake.
So,
you keep the receipt, Tronsis, to track spending, and you follow the recipe, Tronsipi, to bake. Simple when you focus on the meaning. Now, let's look at morale versus moral. These sound so similar.
they really do. The key lies in that middle vowel sound and the context. Morale refers to the overall confidence, enthusiasm, spirit of a group.
Like team morale.
Exactly. Team morale, employee morale. The pronunciation has a longer A sound. Sunjarel. Think high team morale leads to success.
Moral, however, relates to principles of right and wrong, or the lesson you learn from a story or experience.
Like the moral of the story.
Precisely. The pronunciation has a shorter O sound. Evitrate.
So, the tip, ale in morale, group spirit, or in moral, right or wrong. Context is crucial here. Employee morale improved clearly refers to the team spirit. The moral of the story gives you that ethical takeaway.
And the quiz reinforces this. The captain's speech boosted the teams and taught an important about perseverance.
So the speech improved.
The team's morale measured all and conveyed a moral Mansell lesson. Right, we're zipping through these. Let's look at resident versus resident.
Okay. Resident, that's a person who lives in a particular place. You're a resident of your city.
Simple enough.
Residence is the place where someone lives. His official residence is on Park Avenue.
So, person versus place.
Exactly. But the transcript points out a common point of confusion, especially in spoken English. The plural residence, the people, sounds very similar to the singular residence, the place.
Oh, I can see that. Residence, very close.
Yeah, you really have to listen to the context.
The quiz highlights this potential confusion. The new shoe has space for 50. The new residence, the building has room for 50 residents.
Correct.
The people living there. Okay, last noun pair in this section. Weather versus climate. Often discussed together, but quite different.
They are. Weather describes the short-term atmospheric conditions right now, today. Temperature, rain, wind.
Like what's the weather like outside?
Exactly. It changes day to day, even hour to hour. Climate, on the other hand, refers to the long-term average weather patterns in a region, usually over decades.
So asking about the climate gives a general idea, not today's forecast.
Right. What to expect year-round, generally. So weather is the now, climate is the average over time.
Okay.
The transcript provides a clear example. We had to cancel the picnic because of the bad weather, short-term issue. But changes in climate are leading to more extreme heat waves. That's a long-term trend.
Got it. And the final noun quiz. The in the mountains can change very quickly, but the Sol is generally cold and snowy throughout the year. The weather in the mountains is unpredictable, but the overall climate is cold and snowy. All right, we've navigated a good chunk of tricky nouns, ready to tackle some verbs that often trip people up.
Absolutely. Let's start with hear versus listen. Such a common area for mistakes. What's the fundamental difference?
Okay, hear is passive. Your ears just do it automatically without you really trying.
Exactly. Passive reception of sound. I could hear the traffic outside. It's about the ability to perceive sound.
Listen, though, is active. Intentional. You have to focus.
Right. It requires conscious effort. If someone asks, "Are you listening to me?" They want to know if you're actively processing what they're saying. So hearing is passive, listening is active.
The transcript gives some helpful phrases. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Asking about ability. Did you hear that noise? Often just checking if you registered a sound. But you listen to music, listen to a lecture. It needs concentration.
Good point about listen to. And here's a challenge for you listening. Try to make a sentence using both hear and listen correctly.
Ooh.
The transcript offers a perfect example. I can hear the birds singing outside, but I'm not really listening to them. I'm focused on my work.
Ah, nice. You perceive the sound, but you're not actively engaging with it. Excellent exercise. Okay, next up, say versus tell. This distinction can be surprisingly subtle. What's the key?
Often, the key is what follows the verb. Tell typically needs a person as the indirect object. You tell me a story, tell your friend the news.
Right. Could you tell me what time it is?
Exactly. Say, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily need that direct person object. You can just say hello, say it's raining.
Okay.
If you do include a person after say, you usually need to, like, what did you say to him?
So tell directs the info to someone. Say is more about the message itself.
That's a good way to put it. The transcript also notes common collocations. We tell the truth, tell lies, tell a story.
Right. You don't really say the truth.
Not usually in the same way, no. Also, tell often emphasizes the content, while say can just report the words spoken.
Here's another sentence challenge for you. Try to construct one using both say and tell correctly.
Let's see. The transcript gives us, she said that she always tells the truth.
Ah, perfect. Shows how they function differently. Now, let's move on to two verbs for verbal communication. Speak versus talk.
Okay. Speak tends to be a bit more formal than talk. It's often used in more formal settings like presentations.
Or languages. She speaks fluent Spanish.
Exactly. You might give a speech or speak to the audience. Talk is generally for more casual conversations, discussions, exchanges.
Like, let's talk about our vacation plans.
Right. Both speak about and talk about are grammatically correct, but speak about often carries that slightly more formal, maybe one-way connotation.
So speak is a bit more official. Talk is more relaxed.
That's the general idea. The professor spoke about the research, sounds like a lecture. The students talked about the project, sounds more like a discussion. And asking, can we talk, is a common way to start a less formal chat.
Time for another sentence challenge. Combine speak and talk.
The transcripts example. We talked about how she speaks 3 different languages.
Casual conversation about a more formal skill. Nice. Okay, let's try to clearly define the differences between see, look, and watch. All about sight, but different nuances.
Right. See, much like hear is passive perception. It's just what happens when light hits your eyes, no conscious effort.
Like, I can see the mountains, or did you see that?
Exactly. Look, though, involves a deliberate effort. You direct your gaze towards something specific. It's a conscious action.
Look at the beautiful sunset. You choose to do it.
Right. And watch implies continuous, focused attention on something, especially if it's moving or changing.
So that's why we watch a movie, watch a game, or watch kids playing.
Precisely. There's that element of sustained observation. So, quick recap. See is passive, look is intentional direction, watch is sustained attention.
The transcript makes a good point, though. We often say, see a movie, even though it moves.
Yeah, that's true. I think in that context, see focuses more on the act of attending the event, going to the cinema.
Ah, okay. But you definitely wouldn't say, let's see TV tonight.
No, definitely let's watch TV.
Okay. And here's a combined sentence challenge for this trio. Use see, look, and watch in one coherent sentence.
Ooh, tricky. The transcript offers a clever one. He looked out the window and saw a bird land on the branch, so he watched it for a few minutes.
Looked, action. Saw, passive perception. Watched, sustained attention. That's a great illustration.
Okay.
Okay, let's shift focus to movement verbs. Bring versus take. Direction is key here, right?
Absolutely key. Bring indicates movement towards the speaker or the person being referred to.
So if I'm here and you're there, I'd say, can you bring me the book?
Exactly. The book needs to come to your location. Take, conversely, indicates movement away from the speaker or the person referred to.
Like, can you take the trash out? It goes away from here.
Perfect. So bring is towards, take is away. Directional words like here and to often give clues. You bring something here. You take something to a destination away from here.
Got it. Time for a sentence challenge using both.
Okay, the transcripts example. Could you bring your notes to the meeting and then take the minutes back to the office?
Movement towards the meeting, then away from the meeting. Makes sense. Now, let's consider fit versus suit, related to appearance and suitability.
Right. Fit is primarily about size and physical dimensions. Does it match your body size?
This shirt doesn't fit. It's too small. Or these shoes fit perfectly. Physical compatibility.
Exactly. Suit, on the other hand, is about whether something is flattering, appropriate, or compatible with your style, personality, even a situation.
Like that new hairstyle really suits you. Or that color suits you.
Right. It's about aesthetic harmony or appropriateness. You might also say, living in the countryside really suits her personality if it aligns well with her lifestyle.
So fit is size, suit is style, or appropriateness.
That's the core difference.
Sentence challenge time. Use both fit and suit.
Transcript offers, this dress fits well, but I'm not sure if the bright color suits me.
Size is right, style might be wrong. Got it. Now let's tackle learn versus teach. Two sides of the same educational coin.
Okay, learn is the process of acquiring knowledge or a skill. I'm trying to learn guitar, you're receiving, internalizing.
And teach is the opposite, giving knowledge or skill.
Exactly. My sister's going to teach me how to bake. It's imparting instruction. So learn is receiving, teach is giving.
The transcript highlights a common error, saying, I'm learning this lesson when you mean I'm studying this lesson.
Right. Learning generally implies you've actually acquired a new skill or piece of knowledge from the lesson. Studying is the process.
Okay, good distinction. Sentence challenge. Use both learn and teach.
Transcript example.
Yeah.
My grandfather is going to teach me how to garden so that I can learn how to grow my own vegetables.
One shares expertise, the other gains skill. Perfect. Now let's look at lend versus borrow. Giving and receiving temporarily.
Okay, lend means to give something to someone temporarily, expecting it back. Could you lend me your pen?
Structure is lend someone something or lend something to someone.
Right. Borrow means to receive something from someone temporarily, intending to return it. Can I borrow your notes?
And the structure is borrow something from someone.
Correct. The transcript rightly points out that can you borrow me money is incorrect.
Yeah, that sounds wrong. It should be can you lend me money or can I borrow money from you?
Exactly.
Sentence challenge.
Yeah.
Use both lend and borrow.
Transcript gives us, my roommate is happy to lend me his bike, but I always make sure to borrow it carefully.
One offers, the other receives temporarily.
Got it. Now, remember versus remind, related to memory.
Okay. Remember is when you recall something spontaneously from your own memory.
Like, oh, I just remembered it's my friend's birthday.
Exactly. Remind is when someone or something causes you to remember. It prompts your memory.
Could you remind me to buy milk? Someone else jogging my memory.
Right. So remember is internal recall. Remind is external prompting. The noun form reminder is useful too. I set an alarm as a reminder, which means the alarm reminds me.
Perfect. Sentence challenge. Use both remember and remind.
Okay.
Transcripts example. I often forget things, so please remind me to call my mom later. Hopefully I'll remember then.
One person's memory needing a nudge. Nice. Finally, for verbs, we have wait versus stay.
Right. Wait means to pause your activity and remain somewhere until something happens.
Please wait here until your name is called. Or, I've been waiting for the bus. Expecting something to follow the pause.
Exactly. Stay means to remain in a particular location for a period of time without necessarily that same expectation of an imminent event.
Like you should stay indoors if the weather's bad. Just remaining in a place.
Precisely. So wait is pausing for an event. Stay is remaining in a location.
Last verb sentence challenge. Use both wait and stay.
Transcripts example. I'll wait for you at the entrance while you stay inside and finish your conversation.
One pauses for the other who's remaining inside. Phew! That was a workout with verbs. Ready to dive into some tricky adjectives.
Absolutely. Let's kick off with envious versus jealous. Both describe negative feelings about others, but the focus is different.
Okay. Envious is wanting something someone else has.
Exactly. She was envious of her neighbor's beautiful garden. It's longing for what they possess.
And jealous is fear of losing something you have.
Right. Because of someone else.
Yeah.
Insecurity. He was jealous when his partner started spending time with a new colleague. It's about protecting what's yours.
So envious is wanting their thing. Jealous is fearing losing your thing or person.
That's the core distinction. The transcript gives a good quiz. Mark felt of his friend's new promotion and when his friend started collaborating closely with his own mentor.
Okay, he's envious of the promotion he wants in.
Right.
And jealous of the collaboration, fearing it might affect his relationship with his mentor.
Spot on. And remember the prepositions. Typically envious of something and jealous of someone or something.
Got it. Okay, let's look at 2 adjectives describing age-related behavior. Childish versus childlike. Very different connotations here.
Very different. Childlike has a positive connotation. Suggests qualities like innocence, wonder, enthusiasm.
Like she has a childlike curiosity. It's charming.
Exactly. Childish, however, is negative. It implies immaturity, silliness in a bad way, behaving poorly like a young child.
His temper tantrum was quite childish. Not charming?
Not at all. So childlike is positive innocence. Childish is negative immaturity.
The transcript's quiz clarifies. The artist's work had a simplicity, but his constant need for attention was rather...
So the simplicity is...
childlike, a charming quality. But the neediness is childish, an undesirable trait.
Perfect.
Now, anxious versus eager. Both describe anticipation, but the feeling is different.
Right. Eager describes positive anticipation, excitement, enthusiasm about something coming up.
They were eager to start their vacation, looking forward to it.
Exactly. Anxious describes negative anticipation. Worry, nervousness, unease about a future event.
Like she felt anxious about her job interview, feeling stressed.
Right. So eager is positive anticipation. Anxious is negative worry.
The transcript gives us another quiz. The students were to receive their grades, but the teacher seemed a bit room-kenning them while handing them out.
Okay, students probably feeling...
eager, maybe.
Yeah.
With anticipation. And the teacher might have been anxious about how the grades would be received.
That interpretation works well.
Right. Let's move on to age comparison.
Yeah.
Elder versus older. How do these differ?
Elder is primarily used for family members, specifically meaning born before another.
Okay.
My elder sister.
That's a bit formal.
It can, yeah. Older is more general, used for people and things to indicate greater age.
Yeah.
My older car. And interestingly, as the transcript points out, even with family, native speakers often just use older. Elder can sound a bit old-fashioned in everyday chat.
But elders plural is still used.
Yes, elders plural is common for older people, respected for wisdom in a community.
Okay. And the quiz reflects this nuance. He is the count of the 2 brothers, but his house is much than theirs. While elder is technically correct for the brother, many would just say older for both him and the house.
That's generally true for native speakers, yeah.
Now, effective versus efficient, often used in professional contexts. What's the difference?
Okay. Effective means it works. It achieves the desired result. The new ad campaign was very effective in boosting sales.
It got the job done.
Right. Efficient means it achieves the result with minimal waste, time, money, effort.
So something can be effective, but not efficient.
Exactly. While the campaign was effective, it wasn't very efficient because it cost a fortune. So effective is about results. Efficient is about results with minimal waste.
Got it. The transcript gives another quiz. The study method is for memorizing vocabulary, but it's not very because it takes so much time.
So it works, but...
It might be effective, you learn the words, but not efficient if it takes ages.
Precisely.
Now let's look at respectable versus respectful. Both relate to respect, but how?
Okay. Respectable describes someone or something worthy of respect. Due to character, achievements, status.
She's a highly respectable member of the community. Deserves respect.
Right. Respectful describes someone who shows respect towards others through their behavior.
The students were very respectful towards their teacher. They behaved respectfully.
Exactly. So respectable is deserving respect. Respectful is showing respect.
The transcript's quiz highlights this. The guest speaker was very talk-white, and the audience was very during his presentation.
So the speaker was?
Respectable, maybe famous, or accomplished. And the audience was respectful, attentive, polite.
Makes sense. Another quiz. Despite their differing opinions, they always engaged in debate and treated each other as colleagues.
Okay, the debate itself was respectful, showing regard.
Yes.
And they treated each other as respectable colleagues, acknowledging their professional standing.
That fits perfectly.
Okay, let's consider lonely versus alone. Both about being by oneself, but one's emotional.
Right. Lonely describes that feeling of sadness or isolation from lack of connection. It's a negative emotion.
Even if you're surrounded by people, you can feel lonely.
True. Alone simply describes the physical state of being by yourself. It's neutral.
She enjoys spending time alone, just being solitary.
Exactly. So lonely is a feeling of isolation. Alone is a state of being solitary.
The transcript offers another quiz. Working from home can sometimes make you feel on, even though you appreciate the chance to be and focus. Lack of interaction can make you feel lonely, even if you like being alone to concentrate.
Quick example.
Now, incredible versus incredulous. Both relate to belief, but in opposite ways.
Okay. Incredible means unbelievable in a positive sense. Amazing, fantastic.
An incredible victory, an incredible view.
Right. Incredulous describes someone who is unwilling or unable to believe something. Skeptical.
Like he gave me an incredulous look when I told him. Disbelieving.
Exactly. So incredible is amazing. Incredulous is disbelieving.
The transcripts quiz. The magician performed an air trick, leaving the audience completely interrupted.
So the trick was?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the audience was incredulous. They couldn't believe their eyes.
Perfect.
Right. Let's move on to famous versus infamous. Both mean widely known, but the reason is different.
Yes. Famous means widely known, usually for positive things, achievements,
A
qualities.
famous actress, a famous landmark.
Right. Infamous means well known for something bad, negative, scandalous.
An infamous criminal, an infamous disaster. And the transcript reminds us about pronunciation stress on the first syllable. Infamous.
Correct. Infamous. So famous is known for good, infamous for bad.
The transcripts quiz. The chef became for his innovative cuisine, but later became for his controversial business practices.
Ah,
Initially famous for cooking, later infamous for bad stuff.
exactly.
Now, a tricky pair that sound identical, complementary with an I and complementary with an E. How do we keep these straight?
Okay. Complementary with an I, C-O-M-P-L-I, has two main meanings. First, given free of charge.
Like complimentary drinks.
Right. Second, expressing a compliment or praise. Complimentary remarks about my presentation, saying nice things.
Okay, free or praise. Got it. And with an E, C-O-M-P-L-E.
Complimentary, with an E, describes things that enhance each other or go well together. They complete each other, in a way.
Like the red wine was complimentary to the steak. They pair well.
Exactly, a harmonious pairing. So I for free or praise, E for things that go well together.
The transcripts quiz tests this. The museum offered us a ticket, and the guide's knowledge was truly to our understanding of the exhibit. The free ticket is complimentary with an E. The guide's knowledge enhancing understanding is complementary with an E.
Right on.
Okay, let's look at continual versus continuous. Both suggest repetition, but how does it differ?
Okay, continual means happening repeatedly, but with breaks or interruptions.
Like continual rain, it rains, stops, rains again, on and off.
Exactly, not constant. Continuous means happening without stopping, ongoing, no interruptions.
The continuous flow of traffic, nonstop.
Right, so continual has breaks, continuous is nonstop. The transcript acknowledges that sometimes, like, the baby's crying was exhausting. Either could technically work depending on the exact nature of the crying.
Yeah, was it nonstop or just frequent?
Exactly. But the transcript offers a quiz designed for a clearer distinction. The dripping of the faucet was annoying, while the noise from the construction site made it impossible to concentrate.
Okay, the dripping would likely be continual. Drip, pause, drip.
Probably.
And the construction noise is probably continuous, just a constant barrage.
That seems the most logical fit, yeah.
Finally, for adjectives, let's look at fun versus funny. Both positive, but different kinds of enjoyment.
Right. Fun describes something enjoyable, something that gives pleasure.
We had a fun day at the beach, had a good time.
Exactly. Funny describes something that causes amusement or laughter.
The comedian's jokes were really funny, made you laugh.
Right. So fun is enjoyable, funny makes you laugh. The transcript rightly points out you probably wouldn't call a serious concert funny, though it might be fun to attend.
Makes sense. The final adjective quiz. The party was so because the host told so many stories. The party itself was fun, enjoyable. And the reason was the funny stories that made people laugh.
Perfect sense.
Wow, we have truly plunged into a deep dive of these confusing English words today. Hopefully this exploration has, illuminated the nuances for you listening.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to remember, as our source material highlighted, that even native English speakers can occasionally stumble over these words. It's really normal.
Yeah, definitely. It's an ongoing aspect of language learning, so don't be discouraged if some of these distinctions still need a bit of thought.
Take a moment now, maybe reflect on which of these WOD pairs or groups surprised you the most, or which ones you've personally found tricky in the past.
Yeah, just identifying those areas is a big step towards mastering them.
And this brings up a key question for you, our listener. How might a deeper understanding of these, well, seemingly subtle vocabulary differences actually enhance your ability, not just to comprehend native speakers better, but also to express your own thoughts and ideas with more precision, more confidence?
That's a great thought. We encourage you to actively notice these words now, in your future reading and listening. See them in action.
Definitely. The English language is, well, it's a vast and constantly evolving landscape. The journey of learning it is continuous.
It really is. We sincerely hope this deep dive has served as a valuable tool in your exploration, providing some clarity and maybe a few of those rewarding aha moments.